Some Pokemon are rarer than others, but what if we tried to beat a Pokemon game with only the rarest Pokemon, so rare that you only have a 1% chance to even find these Pokemon, and chances are you wouldn't see them in normal gameplay. These must be rare and elusive or powerful Pokemon to only spawn 1% of the time, so let's boot up Pokemon Emerald and go on our 1% adventure. Yeah, it's a Japanese copy because they're way cheaper than the English ones, but what can possibly go wrong? Not being able to read the game and not knowing what any of my moves are. As you can probably tell, these starter or first partner Pokemon, sorry Nintendo, are not 1% encounters, so I'll just pick Trico and name him Not 1% or Not 1/ because we're limited to 5 characters on the Japanese copy, and there's no percent sign in Japanese apparently. Then after doing all the intro stuff, we can finally venture out for our first 1% encounter Pokemon, which we can get on Route 102 before even doing a trainer battle. That's the main reason why I picked Pokemon Emerald version, but famously in Ruby, Sapphire, and the remakes, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the elusive 1% Pokemon you get on this route is Surskit, a cool find especially in Generation 6, as it has the sweet scent attack to be able to summon hordes early on in the game, and its evolution, Masquerain, is pretty cool as well, but no, Surskit just isn't in Pokemon Emerald version at all. It got Thanos snapped for some reason. Instead, you find Lotad and Seedot on this route, which were previously version exclusives in Ruby and Sapphire. Both are awesome Pokemon, and one clearly gets a lot more love and attention than the other, so you'd think I'd love having Ludicolo on my team, as I always go out of my way to use one in a video if I can, but no, the 1% encounter here is Seedot. Why is it a 1% encounter rate here? I mean, I like Seedot, but 1% seems too rare for what it is. That means it's only a 1 in 100 chance to encounter one, so for fun, let's keep track of encounters and see how long it takes us. You might also be thinking that maybe Ralts could have been the 1% encounter rate here, as it's famously a rare Pokemon on this route, but no, that's 4%, which is way more common than Seedot. And Ralts is just 4 times better than Seedot, especially when you compare Gardevoir to... what even is Shifty supposed to be again? A Tengu? What does that even mean? I encountered 6 Ralts while trying to find my Seedot, which took 167 encounters and about an hour of just running around in the grass with no speed up, just vibes and pain. Mostly pain. I kinda lied about the vibes part. I name it Acorn and continue along and see a few issues which I probably should have seen sooner. 1. The entire game is in Japanese, so I have no idea what these moves are, and upon looking them up, oh, that's Bide and Harden. We have no real attacking moves and have to rely on Bind to ride up against wild Pokemon, which requires us to take hits in order to do any damage. Not very efficient or fast at all, but we need to do this until level 13, where Seedot learns Nature Power, which has a different effect based on your surrounding, but it's basically a damaging move most of the time. Keyword, most of the time. So I just spent some time grinding up against wild Poochyenas in the wild with Bide. Barely an hour into this challenge, and I'm already experiencing pain.
How much XP do we get from this Poochyena? 23. We're gonna be here for a while.
I took a break after an hour and a half or so of play, but when I started playing again later that day, I had an epiphany thinking about what our route to the first gym would look like. I remembered this NPC right outside the Petalburg Woods. Most people would just run right past this guy, but I always talk to him because he gives you an item that is pivotal for this 1% challenge run. In most other playthroughs, I never use the item he gives you, but he gives you the Bullet Seed TM, a multi-hit grass type move that isn't very good at all, but it gives Seedot a grass type attack to use for the rock type gym, which is better than just going for Bide and hoping we get hit and most likely dying, and I hope I'm never forced to click Bide ever again. Now equipped with an actual attacking move, I head right into Roxanne's gym and lay waste to her gym trainers with our powerful seed. That sounded a lot weirder out loud. I mean, we're spitting our seed, that sounds worse. Look, we just use our new grass move to beat these trainers and level up enough to a point where I'm ready to fight Roxanne. It feels good getting revenge on these little Geodudes after that Pokéradar video, and Roxanne has 2 Geodudes which go down with ease with our Bullet Seed. Her ace Pokemon is Nosepass, which could cause some issues for us, but she's dumb and just clicks Block and Harden a ton of times, which does nothing since all grass type attacks are special in the 3rd generation. I forget about the lack of a physical and special move split in the Gen 3 games a lot, so I'm surprised I remembered that time, and I wonder if I'll remember throughout the rest of this video. And just like that, we have our first gym badge. Acorn evolves into Nuzleaf and is now an Acorn with legs and arms or something, but still doesn't learn a new grass type move. But we have a few more things to do before getting our second 1% Pokemon in this game, and it's a Pokemon that over the last few months has slowly grown into one of my favorite Pokemon. I'll give you a hint and say I have a plush of it, but I have a lot of weird niche plushes that most people probably wouldn't ever want, and yeah, that includes you, Duraludon. Who has a Duraludon plush besides me? Nobody. Then we save Pico and meet the Devon Court president. It would be much easier to do this in English, but I don't have another English copy of the game and don't want to spend $200 on it. But if you guys want to see me play in English, become a channel member to help me be able to get another English copy of this game for like $200. Subscribing and clicking that like button helps a lot too, and while on the surface this seems like a straightforward challenge, it took quite a while and really required me to play in a different way, with such a weird party of Pokemon that most people would never bother using in this game or even encounter in this game. With our cool high-tech Japanese cell phone, we can now sail to the township of Dewford, pick up the old route that I thought we might need for later, but spoiler alert, we don't, and I head into the cave to deliver a letter to Steven, the son of the Devon Corp CEO from Rustbro. Yeah, that's right, the CEO who makes the Pokemon equivalent of an iPhone tasks a 10-year-old to deliver a handwritten letter alone to his son on an island in a dark cave without providing us with a means of getting there instead of just, I don't know, calling him with the high-tech device that his company makes. The next logical step would be to fight Brawly, but look at his team and then look at mine. Perhaps a second Pokemon would help. We can skip his gym for now and go right to Slateport City, fight Team Aqua in the museum, then go north to get closer to our next encounter, but the game had other plans. We lose that rival fight, so I go back and level up to 23 and try again. This time I get through her Wingull without taking any damage. Her Combuskin decides to barely hit us and goes down after forcing out our Oranberry. Then to be safe, I potion up on her final Pokemon Lombre, and I make sure we don't die again. We didn't end up needing the extra HP at least, and shortly after the battle, we encounter an Abra. Abra's always been considered to be a rare Pokemon ever since Pokemon Red and Blue. However, its encounter rate is a whopping 10% here, which isn't bad at all, even though it would be a cool 1% encounter, albeit frustrating as it teleports away all the time. Our next encounter doesn't come until after we go through Mauville City onto Route 117 though. This route has some cool Pokemon as well, like Roselia, in Ruby and Sapphire at least, as for some reason Roselia just doesn't exist in Emerald version. So what Pokemon did they deem so rare and elusive to make it only a 1% encounter on Route 117? It's Volbeat. Yeah, I don't get it either. Its counterpart, Illumise, is an 18% encounter rate, but Volbeat at least looks cooler. It has access to Tail Glow if you didn't know, a move that raises special attack by 3 stages, which is one of the best setup moves, and the only other Pokemon to get it in the entire game to this day is just Manaphy. It only took 62 encounters to find Volbeat, which wasn't bad at all, but leveling it up is also going to be a pain, and I don't know how much it's actually going to help for Brawly. I try our luck against Brawly anyway with a very underleveled Beetle guy, and you can guess how that went, so I try to grind a bit more, but using this weak Beetle against wild Pokemon is quite painful. I grind up a bit in the Rust Turf Tunnel, thinking that Volbeat would stand a decent chance against some of the Whismers here, but it was still quite painful. I checked around to see where we can get the EXP share in this game, thinking it would be much later on in the game, but it turns out you get it from the Devon Court president after delivering the letter to Steven, making leveling up Volbeat a lot easier. I got Volbeat all the way to level 16, which is still pretty low, but got tired of grinding, so I just went back to Brawly. I led with Volbeat and Confuse Raid his Machop right away. It hits itself in confusion, then hits us with a Seismic Toss, as all we can do is tackle. Yes, Volbeat is just doing a great job. We go back and forth a bit as I hit Confuse Ray again, then barely miss the knockout, forcing Brawly to use a potion. I potion as well, since I mean it's only fair because he did it first, and Confuse Ray for a 3rd time. After some Confuse Ray hits and Machop going for resisted fighting type moves on Volbeat over Seismic Toss for some reason, Machop finally goes down. On his Meditite, I Confuse Raid it, but Meditite is a bit of a weird Pokemon in this battle as it almost always tries to go for Focus Punch, a 2-turn move that fails if it gets hit during the first turn. With Confusion, we're able to force out the other potion as he keeps trying to Focus Punch, but that's not gonna work, buddy, leaving his ace, Makuhita, as his last Pokemon. Can you guess which move I went for first on it? Yeah, it was Confuse Ray, and it hit itself in confusion. Its fighting moves don't do too much to our Volbeat, but Makuhita reveals its berry, which heals it to nearly full HP. I heal as well and continue our barrage of just tackles. Like one of the worst moves ever until Volbeat finally falls, but still, Volbeat, you made it farther than I thought you would. We still have our Nuzleaf in the back though with Fake Out, which just finishes off the fight. I know I mocked this Volbeat earlier as it's not a particularly great Pokemon, but it really carried us during that fight, largely due to Confuse Ray and resisting Fuddy-type moves, which would have just obliterated our Nuzleaf as it's part Dark-type now. It's going to be a while before we can get our next 1% encounter, but pretty soon we'll have quite a few all at once. Then I grinded up on the remaining trainers to prepare for Watson's gym and also taught Nuzleaf Rock Smash for his Steel-type Pokemon. It's super effective against them, but only 20 base power in this game. Better than normal moves or Grass-type moves, I guess, as that's the only other move we have between our two party members thus far. I just went right into the Watson fight and realized I made a big mistake. When I taught Nuzleaf Rock Smash, I accidentally removed Nature Power. I mistook it for Harden, as both Nature Power and Harden technically don't do any damage, just have those two dashes. So that's just fantastic. That's just another downside of playing this game in a language I can't read. We somehow managed to make it to his Manectric though, but as you could have guessed, we got obliterated. We don't have any more Pokemon to use or moves we can learn at this point of the game to help us out, so I pick up some Paralyzed Heals to help us out on the second attempt, only to realize that these aren't Paralyzed Heals. I bought the dark yellow item, but it turns out that the light yellow ones are Paralyzed Heals. I just reset the game there and got the real Paralyzed Heals, but still, it's not enough. I try a few more times and level up Volbeat a little bit, with my new strategy being abuse X items. I never really use X items in Pokemon games much, but with a team like this, we need all the help we can get. I bought 6 X attacks to boost Nuzleaf's attack to max, and hopefully one-shot everything with Rock Smash, which is either super effective or neutral on his whole entire team. The first attempt with this strategy didn't go over so well, so I tweaked the plan a bit to use Volbeat with Tail Glow as the lead to boost its special attack, then Signal Beam to at least get through some of his Pokemon. That helped a little bit somewhat, but we have to send out Nuzleaf earlier than I would like and begin setting up our X attacks. I have potions and Paralyzed Heals to assist while setting up, and while a +6 Rock Smash did less damage than I'd like, with some luck we get through it for our third gym badge. This unlocks a lot more of the Hoenn region, but we still need 2 more badges before our next encounter. 1% Pokemon are rare, and while Emerald has some of the most 1% encounter spawns in all of Pokemon, there still aren't a whole lot. I think there's like 9 or 10 total Pokemon in this game that spawn at a 1% rate. We will at least have a full team for the Elite Four if we can even get there. There are a lot of Pokemon that are 2% encounter rate in this game, but that's twice as common as 1%, so we can't count them. With this challenge, I tried my best to be as much of a purist as possible, playing on a real cartridge, but I'm using the GB operator to record it as it's a bit easier than recording off my GameCube and just looks better than my GameCube. Nothing really exciting happened between then and the next gym. We can get the Secret Power TM, which might be useful later on. Then we got the Dig TM in Fall Over Town, which we can use for Flannery later on. Yeah, I have no idea how we're going to beat a Fire-type gym leader with a team of only 2 Pokemon that are both weak to fire. We eventually made it to Mount Chimney, where Nuzleaf learned Feint Attack, one of the best moves it has access to, but since we have to fight Team Magma here, that means there's even more Fire types for us to go up against, which is a real struggle for us. While in Mount Chimney, Volbeat Trust learned Protect, and I recognize how useful a move like that could be, but our current move pool on Volbeat is Quick Attack, Confuse Ray, Tail Glow, and Signal Beam, none of which I really want to get rid of. Some of the more astute Pokemon fans might notice a glaring flaw with this move pool, but at the time of recording, I didn't realize it until much later. Teaching Dig to Nuzleaf helped us get through the Maxi fight, but his team is no slouch for us. His camera up destroys us so easily, and instead of grinding or just revising my gameplay, I just rush back to Mount Chimney and try again. Volbeat can at least hit Mightyena with super effective damage with Signal Beam. Then against the odds, it held its own against Camera Up, knocking it down to the red HP with Confuse Rays and Signal Beams. This Volbeat never ceases to amaze me and really overperformed in this challenge. Nuzleaf then finished off Camera Up, and the rest of his team was no problem thanks to Volbeat's heroics. For Flannery, we're also going to need Dig on Nuzleaf, which by the way, I made the tough choice of removing Bullet Seed for it, since I didn't want to remove Fake Out or Feint Attack, and we couldn't delete Rock Smash yet as it's an HM moves. We can get better grass moves later on, but now, how the heck do I beat Flannery? As nice as it is to have Dig to hit her Fire-type Pokemon, we're still weak to Fire, and some of Flannery's Pokemon have the Magnitude move, which can hit you while you're underground for Dig. We can last a bit longer by giving our team Oran Berries, and although Nuzleaf can handle her lead Numel, we once again get thwarted by a Camerupt. We're pretty close to having a 1% counter Pokemon that could deal with Camerupt really easily, but for now we just got these two, and by the way, it's been about 8 hours of game time at this point. Why do I keep doing this to myself? After that crushing loss, I remember that Laverge Town has this weird not Pokemart thing that sells healing items that have similar effect to regular items like Hyper Potions, Full Heals, and Max Revives, but are much cheaper. The catch is your Pokemon's friendship level will go down if you use it on them, but I don't really care about that. They're cheaper and I'm low on money from losing so many trainer battles. I bought a few of the Max Revives, not sure what they're actually called as it's in Japanese, and I only knew what it did by using Google Translate on my phone, which wasn't entirely accurate by the way. It's still not enough for Flannery though. We made it farther in the fight, but we just don't have enough Pokemon to throw at her. I reset the game here since without these items we'll have no money to buy more and stand no chance of winning. I briefly thought about maybe setting up Tail Glows again with Volbeat and going for Signal Beams could be good, until I remembered that bug type moves are physical in this game and don't get boosted by Tail Glow at all. A bit unfortunate, so Tail Glow is pretty useless at this point in the game. So I revisit the X-Attack strategy after scrounging up whatever money we could by selling random items that I didn't need at the time. When I return to Laverge Town and ride the cable car, we even see the hiker. Most people probably don't think that's a big deal, as it's really not that big of a deal, but it's only roughly a 1.5% chance to see him while riding the cable car, which is almost 1%, which also just really fits for the theme of this video. I try a few more times and have to rely on dodging overheats. I figured the best chance I had to set up X-Attacks on Nuzleaf was to let Volbeat die to her lead Numel after taking one overheat, which then lowers Numel's special attack stat. Numel can also just set up the sun and then one-shot with overheat after the drop anyway though, which is a huge issue for us, so we just have to hope we get lucky. Well, that's kind of the theme with most of these challenge runs where you use weird Pokemon, you just gotta hope you get lucky. After a few attempts, Volbeat is able to bait out overheats from her lead Numel, making it much safer for Nuzleaf to come in and set up. I'm sure some pro Nuzlockers aren't exactly happy with my rampant abuse of items and being a bit over-leveled, but there's just no real other way to do this. Volbeat does a fantastic job baiting the Numel, putting it into the red HP zone before falling, meaning when we send out Nuzleaf, we have a free turn to set up an X-Attack while Flannery uses a potion. We have to hope that she doesn't go for Sunny Day at all while we're setting up, and thankfully she didn't. We tanked overheats while setting up, then go for Dig to take out Numel. It's enough to take out her Camerupt in one shot as well, although it was able to set up the sun while we were underground, meaning if we don't one-shot her Slugma or Torkoal, we're toast. Slugma has a low defense stat, so that wasn't much of an issue, but Torkoal can be really tanky. We had no other choice but to just click Dig and pray to Arceus, and thank you Arceus because it's enough to knock out Torkoal, giving us our 4th gym badge. We still can't get another encounter though until after we beat Norman, but we can head right to his gym and challenge him right away. The first Pokemon we can encounter after defeating him unlocks so much more for us, and it's a Pokemon that I really like as well. Remember when I said that I might regret not teaching Protect to Volbeat? Norman is the reason for that. If you have Protect, you can use it on Slacking during the turns it would attack, then when it's loafing around every other turn thanks to its Truant ability, you can just attack it. That makes Slacking really easy to exploit as it'll just never attack you, but I didn't teach Protect to Volbeat, and we don't have access to the move reminder yet, so we have to figure out another way. I then begin to ponder what to do next.
Do I fight my dad or get a burrito first? Fight my dad or get a burrito first? I don't know if I can beat my dad right now.
Yeah, the burrito won, but after lunch we get back to the grind. I figured that if Volbeat had nearly any special attacking move, we could just set up with Tail Glows and then knock out a few of Norman's Pokemon with a +6 special attacking hit. After a bit of research, I noticed that Volbeat can learn Shockwave, the TM you get for beating Watson's gym. In hindsight, I don't know why I didn't go to the game corner and get Thunderbolt, which is just better and also in Mauville City, but we can at least make Shockwave work. And I hope I'm not coping by saying that. Paired with some potions, this works decently as Volbeat was able to get to his Slacking, but his Slacking is just too fast and too strong for Volbeat to handle. If we had Protect over Quick Attack, we probably would have won that fight. So I tried again, and this time when I got to his Slacking, I tried to match my Dig turns with his loafing around turns, which was difficult to do, especially with how little damage Dig was doing and how fast Slacking is. On one attempt, we got pretty lucky, where his Slacking was going for weaker moves on Nuzleaf. I took advantage of this and revived Volbeat as Nuzleaf just fell. Slacking still had a decent amount of HP at this time left, and I didn't think an unboosted Signal Beam would do enough damage, but oh, look at that, Volbeat just defies the odds again and gives us our 5th gym badge. With 5 gym badges, we can finally use Surf outside of battle, which is just fantastic, and unlocks nearly every encounter we have left in the region. There's one big issue though. Neither of our team members can learn Surf. Again, I try to be as much of a purist as possible with my videos, but if something is needed to progress the game, or if I just get really annoyed, I'd rather do what I have to do in order to continue the video, rather than just end the video here and say, sorry guys, nobody gets Surf, can't progress, challenge over. The next encounter we can get is Goldeen, with a 1% encounter rate if you're surfing on a few different routes in Hoenn. You can also get Goldeen way easier while fishing with an Old Rod at a much higher encounter rate, so I guess we do need the Old Rod after all, as in order to avoid an unwanted dex entry by just catching, say, a random Zigzagoon to use for Surf, I fished up an imposter Goldeen, taught it Surf, then surfed around on Route 111 for the 1% Goldeen encounter, as I figured at least I wasn't adding a new dex entry by catching Zigzagoon. 99% of the time, you'll encounter Marrow while surfing here, so after about 45 minutes of hunting, finally! 113 encounters. That's not that bad actually, it's barely over odds. At this point I realized that we were basically shiny hunting, but instead of actually being able to find a shiny, we just find a 1% encounter rate Pokemon, which most of the time isn't exactly a fantastic Pokemon. I mean, seriously, have any of you guys ever used either of these 3 Pokemon while playing Emerald before? Probably not. After I caught it, I named it Roan, then got rid of our fake Goldeen. Roan is level 28, which is pretty high already. Then I picked up the black glasses before getting our next few encounters. Weird how this guy says he can't see without his glasses, when I can clearly see he's wearing glasses on his sprite, but the black glasses help Nuzleaf do a bit more damage with his dark type moves. Now equipped with a real Pokemon that can use Surf, we have 2 more encounters we can get in the new Mauville. You have to surf to get here, and boy, these encounters were annoying. The 2 1% Pokemon here are Magneton and Electrode. Again, not super rare when you consider the fact that the other 2 encounters here are just their pre-evolutions, Voltorb and Magnemite. It would have been neat if the 1% spawn here was, say, Electabuzz or something cooler, but no, just the evolutions of the common Pokemon here. There are 2 of them though, so the first one should be easier to find than other 1% Pokemon, as we effectively have a 2% chance of encountering the first one that we want to get. After 70 encounters, or about 35 minutes of running around the power plant unsupervised, I found a Magneton first. Electric types will be great for the next gym too, as Winona uses flying type Pokemon. Since we found one of the 1%ers, I reset my counter so we can focus on finding Electrode. Electrode is fast and will be a welcome addition to our slow team. After just 47 more encounters, I find a 1% Pokemon in the power plant, but it's just another Magneton. I don't want to use duplicate Pokemon in this challenge, so I just keep going for that Electrode. It's not too surprising, I guess, to find a second Magneton before a single Electrode, but at encounter 62, just 15 encounters after the second Magneton, I found a third Magneton. That's starting to get weird and rather unlikely, but surely we don't find a 4th Magneton, right? And then 18 encounters later, we see another one. I have no idea what the odds are of seeing 4 Magnetons before a single Electrode are, but after 4 Magnetons, we hit a drought. We're 82 encounters in after finding the first Magneton, and nothing happened for nearly 200 encounters. I also just want to point out that I found 3 1% Magnetons in just 20 encounters, but it's the one that we already have, of course, so I begin to question my sanity, a fairly common occurrence actually, and double and triple check that you can actually encounter Electrode in this area. Turns out you definitely can, so I keep going until encounter number 279 and see our 6th Magneton. That's right, 6 Magnetons and still no Electrode. Those odds are actually really good when you consider the amount of 1% Pokemon we're finding, but I just started to get really annoyed. I then tried to see if there was a way to make this go quicker, and as easy as it would be to just catch a Voltorb, evolve it, and then act like I found an Electrode, I don't want to do that. I try and see if we can use the Repel trick to force out higher level encounters. Electrode and Magneton are both level 26. If we have a level 26 Pokemon in the lead and use Repel, we should see more Electrodes, and Magnetons for that matter, as Magnemite and Voltorb can spawn below level 26. The issue with that is my only Pokemon at level 26 is the Magneton we caught earlier, and opposing Magnemites have the Magnet Pull ability, which prevents Steel types from running away. On top of that, Magneton is just really slow and slower than wild Voltorbs, making it very difficult to run away from each encounter. But what if we can get the smoke ball item in the trick house, which just lets you run away no matter what if a Pokemon is holding that item? I guess we could have also just caught a random Pokemon that was level 26 that's faster than Magneton so we could run away, but I'm stubborn and want to be as much of a purist as possible, so I look into getting the smoke ball. It's found in the trick house, but we need the strength HM and the cut HM to get through to the point where you find the smoke ball, and I can't really afford to teach those moves to Nuzleaf right now. I tried everything I could at this point. 2 hours had passed since I first set foot in New Mallville of me just running around this room. So it looks like we just have to keep encountering Pokemon the old-fashioned way, and hey, maybe we'll get a shiny too. After a bit more running around the New Mallville, I found out about another way to get the smoke ball. If we teach the Thief TM to Volbeat, which we have, then we can use it to try to get a smoke ball off of a Coughing. Assuming my math is correct, which it probably isn't, the odds of encountering a Coughing that is holding a smoke ball that we can then thief successfully is about 1.25%. So again, not really worth it. Do you guys want to know how many total Magnetons I found before a single Electrode? Do you really want to know? It was 8. The last one was at about encounter 311 or so, and I think I did about 450 encounters total for 9 1% Pokemon, which are really good odds, but not when 8 of them are the one you don't want, and you only get 1 after like nearly 500. This whole ordeal took almost 3 hours, by the way, so in honor of that, or dishonor maybe, I named the Electrode 3 Hour. Yeah, 3 hours for an Electrode with no speed up for a video where I have no idea if it'll perform well or not. There is another 1% Pokemon we can get on our way to Fortree City, but we just caught 3 in a row and spent so much time trying to find them, so let's take a break and just focus on fighting Winona's gym. I'm not going to waste any time with this gym, as getting to her was really easy. She has Flying type Pokemon, we have 2 new Electric types, and we just beat her first try. You best believe that I am going to use this Electrode as much as possible after the amount of pain and suffering I went through just to catch it. Beating Winona does let you use the Fly HM outside of battle, but none of our 1% Pokemon can learn it, so I guess we're just walking around everywhere. How fun. That'll add some time to our final game time for sure, but at least we don't have to backtrack all that much. Oh, and I also found a Leaf Stone to finally evolve Nuzleaf into Shiftry. You find it on the same route you can fish for Feebas, and while Feebas is considered a very rare Pokemon in this game, its encounter rate is technically 50%, you just don't know exactly where to find it, as Feebas only spawns on very specific tiles in your game, and it's different every day. Then after the gym, Goldeen evolves into Seaking, making it much more useful and a great option for Team Magma's Fire-type Pokemon. As we continued through to Lilycove City, the team was really starting to take shape. Shiftry is better than I thought it would be, Electrode is fast and just what we needed, Seaking is a water type, and Volbeat is still holding its own. One cool thing about this challenge is I get to use Pokemon that I never really used before, mainly Shiftry and Volbeat, which are both the most used Pokemon in this run thus far. For our next encounter, there's plenty of simpler ways to get it. There are a few static Kecleons throughout Hoenn you can find with the Devon Scope, but you can also find it with a 1% chance on various routes like the one outside of Lilycove City. Not an amazing Pokemon by any means, but it gets Strength, Rock Smash, and Flash, which we'll need later on, so I'll take it after only 73 encounters. I named it Melon, I don't really know why, but before we can go to Moss Deep City, we have some lore stuff to do with Team Aqua and Team Magma and whatever. First is Mount Pyre, which famously has a rare Pokemon in Chimecho. At a 2% encounter rate, it's only on some slugged patches of grass here, and it is quite rarer, but not 1%, so we're not going to count it. After I cleared out Mount Pyre, we stopped by the Magma hideout, I saw them use the wrong orb or whatever, then I went to Slateport to trigger the cutscene that lets us go to the Team Aqua hideout back in Lilycove City. Before I went back there though, we have another 1% encounter that we can get pretty close by to Slateport City, in the abandoned ship of all places. There is a tiny, and I mean tiny, patch of water that has a 1% spawn Pokemon on the ship. Maybe something kinda cool like a Huntail deep in this shipwreck, or even like a Lantern would be pretty nice, but no, it's just Tentacruel. Nothing super exciting, but it might be good for Tating Liza's gym as they have a Solrock and Lunatone which are pretty annoying, so I guess I'll take another water type Pokemon. This small patch of water on the boat to find Tentacruel is really annoying to move around in, so I really hope that we're not here as long as we were for Electrode, but hey, look at that, Tentacruel after just 10 encounters. Nice. The Team Aqua hideout was even easier than the Team Magma one to clear out, but at least I was able to pick up another Master Ball to trade over to my master copy of Fire Red or Emerald, another bonus of using actual cartridges. I can just trade over all the useful items, and then head into Moss Deep City. For Tate and Liza, I led with Shiftry and Sea King, which match up very nicely, then double target whichever Pokemon isn't the Xatu, as Xatu doesn't really do that much to us. Sea King went down earlier than I would have liked, so I go into Volbeat, which still has Signal Beam to hit Psychic types, super effective. Signal Beam does more damage than I expected, so our original duo takes care of Tate and Liza with ease, as Volbeat again continued to overperform. I am so sorry I ever doubted you, my tiny beetle friend. Next, we can help Steven clear out Team Magma out of the Space Center. Then we taught Dive to Tentacruel so we can visit another Team Aqua hideout. Seriously, how many hideouts do you guys have? I don't even understand why they're hiding to or who they're hiding from. I haven't seen a single police officer this whole time. Kecleon came in handy in the hideout as he was able to use strength on the strength puzzles, but Electro just destroys Team Aqua. If I learned anything from this playthrough, it's that Team Aqua really doesn't like Electro-type Pokemon. When I reached Archie, I led with Volbeat to take care of Mightyena, Electro to finish off Crobat, then Volbeat again to finish off Sharpedo. Volbeat, you already know what I'm gonna say. You're just awesome. With the evil teams mostly out of the way, we can go to Sootopolis City, see the infamous Groudon and Kyogre cutscene, then go to wake up Rayquaza to go yell at its children so we can finish the game. The final gym fight against Juan was a little annoying, but Electro can take care of his lead Love Disc. I know he has a Whiscash, and I figured he'd probably go to it next, seeing an Electrode in the lead, so I just go to Shiftry right away and got that prediction right. I mean, if I was playing in English, it would have just told me in the game, but Shiftry has Giga Drain now to take out his Whiscash in one hit, and things went really smoothly in that battle until Juan sent out his Kingdra. He spammed Double Team, so we have to rely on Feint Attack from Shiftry and Shockwave from Volbeat to hit it, since those moves aren't affected by accuracy buffs or debuffs. Kingdra has Rest too, which was able to heal it up, and can't really hit us all that hard. It was tedious, but all we have to do is stall it out and get our final gym badge in the Hoenn region. Those first 5 gym badges took way longer back when we only had an acorn in this bug thing, but since getting Surf and all of these other new encounters, the game really opened up, giving us a surprisingly solid and diverse team. All that's left to do now is go through the Victory Road and challenge the Elite Four. Looking at our levels compared to the Elite Four and the Champion, I noticed we are considerably underleveled, so I did some off-camera grinding to get everyone in the low 50s. This makes short order of Wally in the Victory Road, so we can then stock up on items and head right into the Elite Four. Before heading in, I swapped out Magneton for Tentacruel, as I didn't think we'd really need a second Electro-type Pokemon behind Electrode, and having a second Pokemon to use Ice Beam alongside Sea King was really helpful. First up though is Sydney's Dark-type Pokemon, and Volbeat matches up really well being a Bug-type. This bozo even has 2 Pokemon that are 4 times weak to Bug. Who has Pokemon that are 4 times weak to Bug, like ever? Volbeat was able to handle like 90% of that battle with a little help from Tentacruel, mainly since I barely used it and just wanted to have more screen time. No! For Phoebe's Ghost types, our starter Pokemon Shiftry matched up really well, but I think one of her Dusclops has Flamethrower or Ice Beam, or maybe even both, so we have to be a little bit careful. Her Ghosts are pretty tanky, even though they're technically dead already, so Shiftry can take care of all of them on its own. Electrode can do good damage with Sparks, and then Sea King finished off the battle with a few Surfs. Third up is Glacia, and now that I taught Thunderbolt to Volbeat, how about we try to sweep with some Tail Glows and Thunderbolt? This worked out well to take out her lead Celio after it set up the Hail, but then Volbeat just fell to Glalie. Most of her team is Water type though, so Electrode takes care of them nicely, and I don't know where I would be without this Electrode. I would say it wasn't worth spending 3 hours trying to find one, but then I probably would have wasted more time trying to beat the Elite Four and the game without it. For Drake, we have Ice Beam on Sea King and Tentacruel, so he didn't even stand a chance, just leaving the champion, Wallace. While Emerald is just a better version of Ruby and Sapphire, changing the champion from Steven to Wallace is a bit of a downgrade, especially when his team is so similar to Juan's, the 8th gym leader who'd replaced him earlier on. We can at least take care of him now, much like we did with Glacia and Juan, but get to a point where it's just our Shiftry versus his ace Pokemon, Milotic. How nice would it be to finish off this challenge with the Pokemon that started it all. Oh, Milotic outsped and knocked out Shiftry? Alright, fine, I guess I'll just let Electrode use Explosion to finish off the fight and become the champion with our 1% team after 21 hours and 21 minutes of gameplay. A lot of that was spent just running around trying to find 1% Pokemon. Now, there are technically some more 1% Pokemon we can find, like Wailord by surfing, but I didn't really need one for the video, so I didn't bother getting it. The post-game Safari Zone areas also have Octillery and Quagsire in them, but it's too late for both of them, even though they're both really neat Pokemon. Having a ground type would have been awesome. We spent a lot of time finding these 1% Pokemon, and despite technically being the rarest Pokemon in the game, they really weren't all that strong. So was this all worth it? Honestly, no, not really. I don't know why I keep doing this then.